Well, good evening, this is Houndog wishing you a very pleasant evening. And yes, I'm going to do a bit of a vlog tonight and catch you up on some of the things that have been going on. First, let me thank all of my viewers, especially shout out goes to Jeff over there in Kitchener. Thank you so much for the donation, but thank you all for the letters, the emails and the comments that I see on my videos. As you can imagine, it's not always easy to keep up with all the comments, but I do my best and I try and comment where possible. So you probably noticed that I haven't been doing as many videos as I normally do, and this is basically because of the situation we've been in for the past 4 months. So many things have absolutely ground to a halt. I am actually staggered at what has happened in the last 4 months. The fact that we've lost our freedom of speech, the fact that healthy people are being locked in their own homes, we've lost freedom of association, we've lost our justice system, our cities, councils and governments have all but shut down, our education system is shut down and students are not at school, and all this has taken place under the authority of bureaucrats. Okay, now I don't know about you, but I am seeing so many contradictions out there. The whole issue around masks, I've never heard so many different attitudes, protocols, procedures, beliefs from such a vast array of people. You know, I was looking at a document the other day, I put up in a previous video. It's from the CDC, and it is all of the combined data was investigated on mask wearing from 1946 to 2018, and suddenly in the last 2 months all of that data is now, it's meaningless. We now have a new understanding of masks, and of course, you know, Dr. Fauci now wants us to get dressed up in goggles, virtually a hazmat suit, to be completely safe from a disease which affects about 1% of the population. And we are now into phase 3 of opening, so that means for myself in the barbershop, I am now allowed to do facial hair. Well, we have a mandatory face mask regulation now in place in City of Quarter Lakes, and so everyone has to wear a face mask in my store unless they have some kind of health issue, but I cannot trim a beard with a face mask on, obviously, and they know that, you know, facial hair is right there, and so that mask has to come off. And when I'm trimming facial hair, I am actually closer to the person than I am when I'm doing a haircut, because I'm now around their face, I'm looking into their face and breathing into their face. When I'm doing a haircut, I'm at the back and sides, and so this is a completely different situation. But how can we have such contradictory information? It's absolutely stunning that this is going on, and I'm stunned at the number of people that I know who are good, intelligent people. One chap I know is an accountant, and he will not look at the statistics. And these are statistics from the very institutions that are advising our health officials, who are advising our politicians to go ahead with some of these procedures. Now, as I've heard before, and I think it's a very good line, having people put masks on now when we've had 45 days without cases in this area is a bit like taking a condom to a baby shower. It's too late. This should all have happened in February and March, but in February and March these very same health officials were saying it's a psychological prop, it's not necessary, we don't need to do this. So what is it, guys? Or guys and gals? Make up your mind. Now, to my way of thinking, if this was a real emergency, if this was a real deadly issue and scenario, you would have one clear voice with one set of instructions that would be impossible to misinterpret. And I'm just not seeing that. And something else that's made me very suspicious, and I've been running it past a lot of my customers as they come in, because, you know, there is only one conversation to talk about now, because this situation has affected every aspect of everyone's life. And what I remind them of is, just 6 short months ago. Remember that? 6 short months ago? December of last year, 2019. We had a young lady called Greta Thunberg, and she was telling the world, and all the environmental scientists were agreeing, we had only 10 years left to live. This planet was going to expire, and everybody on it, in a 10-year time frame. Now that, to me, is a pretty dire warning, wouldn't you say? 10 years, 10 years goes by in a heartbeat. Where's that narrative now? You don't hear anything from Greta Thunberg. I think there was a little piece where she said, I made a comparison to climate change and how when we have an emergency, we can change when we want to. And that's it. So other than that, that narrative has been shut down. And who shut it down? The media. The media decided to stop shining the spotlight on climate change and start shining the spotlight on CV. And whilst I'll be first to admit, influenza pathogens are deadly. They have been stalking humankind for at least 250,000 years, and we haven't succeeded in conquering them yet. There is no place to hide. There is nothing you can do to stop an influenza outbreak, and locking yourself up in your homes is going to make matters worse. We need, as human beings, we need to be exposed to the world. And of course, you have to go out at some point. And when you do go out, because you haven't been exposing yourself to the world and the environment, there are all kinds of nasty little pathogens that might have jumped up that you're now suddenly vulnerable to because you weren't getting herd immunity. And that's what we're doing all the time. The human body all the time is gathering herd immunity. When I dig up my garden, when I take a handful of soil, there are maybe 250,000 species of bacteria in that handful of soil and probably 20 to 30 viruses. Why don't I get affected by them? Because my hands are in the soil. You may think I'm crazy, but I'll pull a carrot out of my garden, I'll bite the top and the bottom off, I will wash it in my water barrels that have mosquito larvae in it and algae and goodness knows what else, wipe it on my pants, and oh my God, I eat it. And you know what? I'm just fine. I haven't had a cold or a flu for years. I take vitamin C, vitamin D and zinc every single day of the week. Okay, and at 67 years old, I'm actually in pretty good shape. I don't seem to fall prey to any of these pathogens. And that's how you deal with the environment and the world, is you harden your body. Now the other side of this, which is absolutely astounding, is the economic damage that has been wrought by the lockdown protocols. Basically, the entire country came to a grinding halt for about 3 months. And of course, as you know, it's all the mom and pop stores that were shut down. All the big box stores, Walmart, Home Depot, Rona, so on and so forth, they were all allowed to stay open. They were deemed essential services, so they may have had a slowdown, but they still kept employing their staff and they still continued to make money, whilst all the barbershops, restaurants, hairdressers, salons, bars, you name it, was shut down and people were stopped from going to work. Now where this is going to be a real disaster is, up until this point, up until January of last year, we had a system, an economic system that was so fine-tuned. We had just-in-time servicing, where trucks with products showed up, as the last piece was going into the whatever they were manufacturing, the truck showed up with the new load of pieces, and it was that close. So we were running at full steam ahead. We have so much debt in the world, which we're all chasing, trying to keep up with. So we're running at full steam ahead, and we cannot keep up with our economy. And so we shut it down for 3 months and then slow it down by 50%. And throw everybody behind the 8 ball as if they weren't already behind the 8 ball. So now that I am open again, I'm hearing the horror stories, the bankruptcies, the family breakups, the suicides. I had a dentist come in. He told me that he normally gets about maybe 10 requests a year from the police for dental records for suicides. He's been getting 10 a month, and that's just one dentist. The drug overdoses outnumber the deaths in Peterborough from CV. Goodness knows how many women and children have been abused in this situation. Goodness knows how many arguments have been caused by this situation. People are so anxious. There are outbursts of anger on the street, in stores. There are what I call masked Nazis who just can't leave people alone. And I'm going to say this to your face, anybody who is acting like that, you do not know if that person has some issue going on, a health issue, a mental health issue. So please, if you are not a medical doctor, mind your business. And stop ratting out restaurants. If the health inspector is going to catch them, let the health inspector catch them. But it's not your place. It's not your place to be the rat. And I thought as a society we had learnt that there would be some kind of solidarity amongst the public, that we wouldn't start ratting each other out or berating and bullying people over these issues. I don't think that people really realise the damage that has been done here worldwide, and I think that any kind of recovery is going to be unbelievably tenuous. There are so many people who bought houses that were way beyond their means. They've been using the equity to make mortgage payments and of course to buy the toys, and I am expecting to see a wave of things, of toys on people's lawns up for sale. Take over the payments, ATVs, boats, sea-doos, ski-doos, you name it, trailers, because all of a sudden people are going to be scrambling to get money anywhere and everywhere they can. And I actually think this is going to bring about some common sense, because, you know, I've got a little saying that nothing takes away your sense of humour like a money problem. And you know what, over the years, that is absolutely true. And we've been buffered by this. The benefits that were paid out by the government were extended to September. That will be the last check. But the reality moment in Canada, I can assure you, will be the second week of November. Why the second week of November? And no, it's not because of the election down south, although that is going to make a huge difference one way or another. We are going to end some of the controversy about that election, whether Trump wins or loses, or Joe Biden wins or loses. We're looking at, there's going to be some issues coming out of that. I am predicting violence from either side should their person lose. But no, the big reason why the second week of November is so important is that, by and large, is when the furnaces come rumbling on certainly in eastern Canada. And winter here, it ain't no joke. It's not like living in Europe, in the Netherlands or in England, southern England, you know, where it might go down to -1, -2. You don't have frost issues in the ground. In this country, in Ontario, by the time you hit December, January, it's common to have daily temperatures of -26 degrees centigrade, freezing rain, snow, you name it. And you can play in your living room in a bikini and swim shorts all day long when that furnace is keeping you nice and warm. But I'll tell you, when you step outside, you better have a snowsuit on. And so the winter is going to wake everybody up over here. And of course I did a video as well about, the advice that the police gave to the British government about anarchy on the streets if they have another lockdown. I believe you will see a similar thing happen in Canada if there is a lockdown in wintertime. People are battered and bruised and they cannot take more time off work. They're struggling as it is. The jobs are not going to come back. The restaurants are going to close down. You cannot run a restaurant at 50% capacity. Like when these patios close and they're all into indoor, you cannot run on 50% capacity. I don't even believe a restaurant could survive at 80% capacity. My business is just limping along. If it wasn't for the fact that I get a small pension, I couldn't justify going to work. It's basically paying the bills and a little bit left over. It's not a saleable business. I mean, for me personally, what this has done is stripped out and stolen 28 years of hard work and goodwill, because part of my retirement plan was to sell that business to some young barber with a young family who had lots of get up and go and doesn't mind working the 5 days a week. My business is unsaleable. So the government has stolen that money from me. They've stolen my retirement from me. There's going to be lawsuits, and if I can join a class action suit, I will, because as Rocco Galati said, when you have a state of emergency and you start shutting down your country or your province, you had better be certain that the state of emergency doesn't do more damage than the emergency itself. And I think it's pretty clear to see that we're seeing far more damage from the lockdown than from the outbreak itself. Now, as I say, it is a terrible thing. We lose 1.5 million people a year, every single year, to influenza or influenza-like illnesses. This is nothing new, and I'm not saying that this is not real, that this isn't deadly, but what I am saying is that this is no different than any other influenza season. And I'm going to, like a broken record, I'm going to put this chart up because it so beautifully describes the trajectory that we've had this year. And 2020 is the red line, and you can see it falls well within the parameters of a normal flu season. So yes, I think the damage is going to be absolutely huge, and all of those people who are sitting at home now, who are on a pension, who have a defined benefits plan, if you think that you are safe, ask yourself who your pension plans are invested with. Where is that money invested? That money is invested in manufacturers, in real estate, in offices. Do you not think that people who are now working at home, that their company is going to release a building at $150,000 a year to house people who are now working happily at home, and all they had to do was buy them a new computer and a modem? How many new cars do you think I am going to be buying in the next 5 years, or anyone who is working at my level? My spending is going to be at an absolute minimum. Every purchase that I make has to be justified now, because there is no wiggle room, there is nothing to spare. What about all of the loans and debts that are not going to be paid off? Another thing that struck me the other day is what about all the ladies of the night and the massage parlors? Here are a group of people who barely had a sliver of rights or safety and protection in that workforce. And I think force is the operative word. That, you don't go and do that kind of stuff for fun. You do that because you've either been pimped out or you are in an absolute desperate situation. So all of those services have now gone underground, and God knows what abuse those women or men. I don't frequent those sort of things, so I don't really know. Now this is another desperate situation of people who've been put in a very unsafe situation where their lives may depend on this. So that essentially is what I've been trying to get my head wrapped around, and that is, in a long-winded kind of way, why I haven't been making so many videos. My life has changed so much, there's been so much work at home, and it takes a while to accept a new paradigm. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we are in. We're in a new paradigm. And they talk about a new normal. We're certainly not going to go back to any kind of old normal, because everything has shifted. And of course, in some ways, for the good. I think it's probably great that people are working at home and spending more time with their family, more time in the garden, and scheduling their work hours around hours that suit them. I think it's just amazing that the sky, certainly above where I am, is clear blue. No more chemtrails. No more jet traffic. I see the odd plane. Traffic is way down. Dust contamination, way down. There are much fewer people on the lake. There are fewer people putting pressure on the fish. So the environment is definitely benefiting from the situation. So it's not all bad. And of course, even for myself, it's not all bad. I've reevaluated my situation and made a plan going forward. I hope it's a good plan, and that will be revealed as we do go forward. I don't really want to talk about it too much right now, but there are plans in the works, and it is going to change my life quite significantly. And I'm sure that is the same for many people. So I guess all I can suggest and encourage you to do is to stay calm, be aware of these inconsistencies, notice some of the contradictions that are taking place, and ask yourself these questions. Why is this happening? And why are we losing all of our freedoms? Whether it's an emergency or not, this is no justification for what appear to be permanent losses of our rights and freedoms. And if we let those go, if we lose our freedom of speech, if we allow big tech platforms to censor over and above what the government is saying, they make the decisions on what they're going to censor, and they're shutting down actual doctors, qualified doctors, surgeons, epidemiologists, because they are questioning what is happening during this outbreak. And you're immediately referred back to the WHO, but I'm sure that's put off many creators from doing things. That has dampened my spirits, because I have to change my language. I have to speak to you like your children, so I don't trigger some silly algorithm within YouTube, because they can't bear to hear another opinion. And that's also something that you should think about. Why are you not allowed to hear another opinion? If their assessment of the situation is so correct, you would not be frightened of another opinion, because it would be so clear and so apparent that what they're saying is true and is actually going on. They would not be frightened of any little person like me sitting in his office talking to, 2,000-3,000 people. I'm a big nobody, but yet they're frightened of me. Why is that? We have to ask ourselves these questions, because the answers are very important. Why would you be frightened of my voice? Because it may be telling the truth, it may gain support. And I can assure you that my life has become a lot more difficult since I started searching for the truth, because what I found out is that when you search for the truth, you actually offend everybody. For example, just a quickie, I know it's getting a little bit long here, but just a quickie. I am completely on board with the whole idea of climate change. The climate changes all the time, but I'm not on board with CO2. Do you know how many enemies I made in the climate change field because I questioned the veracity of that point? So when you search for the truth, it's a lonely path that you follow, and expect that. because I'm sure that many of the people listening to this video are like me. They simply want honesty, they want the truth, they want information that they can work with, and if the information is good, you know, you don't have to twist it. As I saw the other day, someone put up on Facebook, you don't need to force people to accept a good idea. Simple as that. Okay, so that's my life so far, and some of my observations of things going on around me, and be ready for the bump. I'm sorry, this is not all good tidings, and of course there will be good things that come out of this situation, but we're going over a bump. We were going to go over this bump anyways, whether we had this state of emergency or not, so it was sooner or later this bump was going to happen. So I would urge you all to prep up, read up, get a garden going, look at what is going on. Don't just blindly accept the mainstream media's explanation. Get on the internet and start doing some of your own research, because once you do, you will become more enlightened. Even if it's a lonely path, you will feel better about yourself. I feel so much happier having researched and feeling confident in what I have discovered. Now, of course, you have to remember that you know, I'm not always right. Of course I'm not always right. I make mistakes. I go down blind alleys. We all do. And that is the other big part of truth seeking, is accepting that sometimes you make mistakes and to revise your opinion accordingly. That's being flexible is probably the most important part of seeking the truth, because you are going to go up blind alleys. And you know, this is actually why I do enjoy encountering people who have a different opinion, because it makes me think a little harder about what I'm talking about and what I'm thinking about, because yeah, it has to be good evidence. Anyway, I'm going to round up there because it has been a bit long, but I hope this has caught you all up to date, and I hope this finds you all well, in fine fettle. Stay positive, look towards the future. The vast majority of us will survive this, no matter what the future looks like, and stay strong, be kind, be friendly, be accepting, and think of ourselves as a world community in a similar situation. Okay, well, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe below, and in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we'll talk very, very shortly. See you now. Bye.